Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Narayanam Namaskrityam.
Naran Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswati Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiraet.
Tato Jayamudire.
Nashtaprayesu Abhadresu.
Ashtaprayesu
Avadresu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha, which is starting a new chapter. We ended chapter 17 last time. We dwelled on it for a long time. Chapter 17, because it had all the modes and how modes apply to, charity, sacrifices, and austerity. And we discussed that. We discussed that. In a very great detail. So today we are going to start chapter 18. The title of the chapter is Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And today we're going to verse number 1. You all can see my screen, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditam.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Tyagasya Hrishikesha.
Tyagasya Hrishikesha.
Pruthakeshi Nishudana.
Pruthakeshi Nishudana.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditam.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha.
Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha.
Pruthakesu Nisudhana.
Pruthakeshi Nishudana.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to lead?
Arjuna Vacha.
Arjuna Vacha.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditam.
Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha.
Tyagasya Hrishikesha.
Pruthakeshi Nishudana.
Pruthakeshi Nishudana.
Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna Vacha.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Sanyasasya Mahabaho.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Tattvam Ichchami Veditum.
Tyagasya cha Hrishikesha.
Tyagasya Hrishikesha.
Pruthakeshi Nisudana.
Pruthakeshi Nishudana.
Thank you. Word by word meaning. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said.
Arjuna Vacha.
Arjuna said.
Sanyasasya of renunciation.
Sanyasasya of renunciation.
Mahabaho, O mighty armed one.
O Mahabaho, mighty armed one.
Tattvam, the truth.
Tattvam, the truth.
Ichchami, I wish.
Ichchami, I wish.
Veditam, to understand.
Veditum, to understand.
Tyagasya, of renunciation.
Tyagasya of renunciation.
Cha, also.
Cha,
also.
Hrishikesha, O master of the senses.
Hrishikesha, O master of the senses.
Prithak, differently.
Prithak, differently.
Kesi Nisudana.
Kesi Nisudana.
O killer of the Kesi demon.
O killer of the Kesi demon.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Arjuna said,
Arjuna
Arjuna
said,
said,
O mighty armed one,
O
O
mighty
mighty
armed one,
armed one,
I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation,
I wish
I
to
wish
understand the
to
purpose of
understand the
renunciation,
purpose of renunciation,
Tyaga,
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 and of the renounced order of life,
and of the
and
renounced
of the
order of life,
renounced order of life,
Sanyasa,
Sanyasa.
Sanyasa,
O killer of the Kesi demon,
O
O
killer
killer of
of
the
the
Kesi
Keshi
demon,
demon,
master of the senses.
master of the
master of the
senses.
senses.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read this page of the purport?
Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is finished in 17 chapters. The 18th chapter is a supplementary summarization of the topics discussed before. In every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna stresses that devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. This same point is summarized in 18th chapter as the most confidential path of the knowledge. In the first 6 chapters, stress was given to devotional service. Yoginam api sarvesham, of all yogis or transcendentalists, one who always thinks of me within himself is best. In the next 6 chapters, pure devotional service and its nature and activity were discussed. In the third 6 chapters, knowledge, renunciation, the activities of material nature and transcendental nature and devotional service were described. It was concluded that all acts should be performed in conjunction with the Supreme Lord, represented by the words Om Tat Sat, which indicate Vishnu, the Supreme Personal. The third part of Bhagavad Gita has shown that devotional service and nothing else is the ultimate purpose of life. This has been established by citing past acharyas and Brahma Sutra, the Vedanta Sutra. Certain impersonalists consider themselves to have a monopoly on the knowledge of Vedanta Sutra, but actually the Vedanta Sutra is meant for understanding devotional service for the Lord himself. He is the composer of the Vedanta Sutra and he is knower. That is described in the 15th chapter. In every scripture, every way the devotional service is the objective. That is explained in Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Anyone else would like to read this page?
As in the second chapter, a synopsis of the whole subject matter was described. In the 18th chapter, also the summary of all the instruction is given. The purpose of life is indicated to be renunciation and attainment of the transcendental position above the theme of the material nature. Arjun wants to clarify the two distinct subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, namely renunciation, Tyaga, and the renounced order of life, Sanyasa. Thus, he is asking the meaning of these two words. Two words used in this verse to address the Supreme Lord, Rishikesha and Kesi Nisudana, are significant. Rishikesh is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us attain mental serenity. Arjun requests him to summarize everything in such a way that he can remain equipoised. Yet he has some doubt, and doubts are always compared to demons. He therefore addresses Krishna as Kesi Nisudana. Kesi was a most formidable demon who was killed by the Lord, and now Arjuna is expecting Krishna to kill the demon of doubt.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. And let's all chant together. What a powerful words to start the discussion. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namo Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpatakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Vitamsha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpatarushya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nilachal Nivasa Nityaya Paramatmane Balavatra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Namo. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha every Saturday 7:30 online Zoom. We discuss some of the powerful messages given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and here the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually ending everything. All the aspects are discussed before in the first 17 chapters. And in this chapter, which is the conclusion, here Lord is taking time to summarize. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is taking time to summarize. And that's the reason why the next verse, which is 18.2, is Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Bhagavan Uvacha means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is speaking the next verse. And here in the first verse of this chapter, Arjuna, his greatest friend, his greatest devotee, is having some doubts. And what are the doubts? He's trying to understand the difference between sannyasa, or somebody who is a renunciate, and the difference between sannyasa and tyaga. Tyaga means, to sacrifice. So, so, so Krishna is trying to discuss these two things, being asked by Arjuna, of course. Arjuna is asking the difference between sannyasa and tyaga. And in this case, Krishna is referred to as Kesi Nisudana. Kesi is actually a horse demon. Krishna killed the horse demon. The demon comes in various different forms. Bakashur comes in one forms, Putana comes in some other form, Kalia comes in different forms. Kesi came in the form of a horse, and horses are controlled by clamping them through his mouth. When horses are being ridden, they can go astray. That's the reason why we have to control the mouth. And because when the doubts need to be cleared, the doubts are like demon. Most of the time, we're spirit souls. We're not the body, but we do not understand the the interrelationship between various different instructions given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is showcasing the instruction, there are doubts in the minds of people. And these doubts are nothing but demons. And these doubts, when we do not clear the doubts and we stay longer with these doubts, it tends to create problems over a period of time. And here, the demon or the doubt is referred as Kesi Nisudana. That means a horse demon who was killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So Arjuna is referring to Krishna as Kesi Nisudana. And also, he's also saying, Rishikesha, he's saying, Krishna, you're the master of senses. You know everything. You know what I'm looking at, what kind of doubts I have. So as you are the master of senses and you have cleared the doubts of many people in the past. So why don't you clear this doubt? So in this context, we have to understand one or two things. Okay. So let's put some things context around. So in the next verse, the Lord is going ahead and is talking about the differences between sannyasa and tyaga, because that's the question which is posed in 18.1. And also in 18.3, Lord is talking about yajna, dana, tapa. Yajna means sacrifice. Dana means charity. Tapa means penance. So when these things are spoken, so there are some definitions we'll go into. The first definition is nitya karma. We have to do some duty, right? We can't sit idle. There are certain things you have to wake up, you do brushing of your teeth, you take bath. These are prescribed use. That they are basically nitya karma. And then there is something called kamya karma. Kamya karma means these additional duties we end up doing, which is trying to fulfill the desire. See, we have chosen to work in a company which can give us a lot of money, and more we want money, we really want to go change jobs, make money. So those kind of duties are essentially, we want a bigger house, we want a bigger car and whatnot. They are called kamya karma. So there are two kinds of duties in this context. So once we understand that, we will sort of go deep into the words and try to understand. So there is nitya karma, prescribed duties, and kamya karma, which are additional duties arising out of our desires. We have a desire to have a big house. We have a desire to have a big car. We have a desire to have, a nice big party. So these are all kamya karma. Those are essentially because of our desires, because of our fruitive desires. We seek to get those work done because we have to fulfill something else. So here Lord is saying not to shun duties. Lord is not saying don't work. That is not the message Lord is giving. So here, sannyasa in this context is the renounced order of life, and tyaga is act of renunciation. So does that mean we all become sannyasis to become tyagis? No. And that is where Krishna is trying to saying prithak. I'll tell you the difference. So sannyasa and tyaga are not one and the same. So for sannyasa is a person, or sannyasi is a person who has doing prescribed duties, and he has limited to no kamya karma. That means he has no desires, but he is just doing his prescribed duties. But as a prescribed duty holder, a sannyasi might end up doing some projects, end up doing some preaching. So the preaching and the doing of that work a sannyasi does is dovetailing into a detachment, which is why that work is is done with tyaga in mind. That means a spirit of detachment. But how does that apply to somebody who is not a sannyasi? So that's the reason why we have to understand this very closely with some technicalities. That so tyaga is not renouncing work. You're not a calm chore, or you're not trying to run away from work. Tyaga is not about renouncing work. It's doing work with the spirit of renunciation. So this is a very basic fundamental understanding we need to carry, that tyagi or tyaga is an act where we're doing work, but with a spirit of renunciation, without really waiting for the fruits to germinate, manifest. We're just doing work. And that's where uh, Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Swami has a beautiful video which you must have seen, which is going around. Our understanding of success and failure in our life is so convoluted that we think that only when we achieve something we have met success. That's not true, because success or failure is not in our hands, but doing work is in our hands. So when we end up doing work, in this journey of doing the work, whatever the outcome may be, whatever the Supreme Personality of Godhead has in store for us, maybe it doesn't matter. Just by we pursuing the work of doing the work with renunciation in mind, with detachment in mind, has made us success. So our looking at certain things in our life, wherein we end up looking at doing work with the intent to get the ROI or return on investment, is not what Krishna is saying. Just by doing selfless work with an act of doing that for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is enough. That's the reason why Krishna conscious devotees are not outcome based, they are process based. Because if you're part and parcel of a process and you end up doing work with renunciation in mind, you have met the success. Renunciation in work or renunciation in action is nothing but karma yoga. Karma yoga is not about doing work to get something in return. That's business. That's not karma. Karma yoga is about doing work for the pleasure of the Lord, or whatever the case may be, for the pleasure of devotees who are eventually our family members, but not with an intent to cry if we do not get the outcome. So, sannyas and tyaga is not about renouncing work. It's about doing work with a spirit of renunciation. So there is that little difference. So then Krishna is referred here as Rishikesha. Rishikesha is Krishna, the master of all senses, who can always help us attain material serenity. So the difference between sannyasa and tyaga writes in the sannyasa is somebody who does nitya karma, but he doesn't do kamya karma. But tyaga is about doing both, but eventually detaching with the outcome of the work and doing it for the pleasure of the Lordship. So this yajna, dana, tapa is an action which has to be done. You have to do yajna, sacrifice, dana, charity, tapa, austerity. Once we end up doing that with an intent to not get the benefit, that itself is a success for us. So our mindset, our way in which we clear the doubt, the way in which we look at life changes when Bhagavad Gita is is getting into our system. That's the reason why we always encourage everybody to hear Bhagavad Gita classes or discuss Bhagavad Gita in a way which will change the way you look at life. That's the reason why if Arjuna can be confused and ask these questions, we are super confused because we do not have a lot of quality, as much quality as Arjuna. Arjuna was a powerful archer. He had sharp shooting capability and he was a great Kshatriya. He had the doubt in mind. So that's why he's asking, clear the demon of doubt in my mind, hey Rishikesha. And that is when, you know, and that is where uh, the clear, the demoniac doubt in your mind is why horses, the Casey demon horse, given his example. So uh, we have to shun the attitude of talking which gives hurt to others, wherein the horses, they have to be controlled within the mouth, and by controlling their mouth, they can go wherever they want to go. And that's the reason why we should control our mouth, because more and more we let our mouth speak, we deal with uh, doing offenses, and those offenses are going to hurt us eventually. So less we talk, and less we talk about others, and more we discuss about Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita should not be read, it should be studied. And more we dwell on it, we discuss on it. We have a devotee forum where we mostly know all of you through your relationship with the Supreme. And that's the reason why when devotees like this get together, they're not there to make a transaction. They're not there for somebody's selfish motive. We're just trying to glorify the Lord and trying to understand what beautiful sentences have come from Lord's mouth. And that is where Tyaga, to renounce the result of activities, and sannyasa, to renounce the activities that are based on material desire, is important as to why we should we can be, we need not be living in an orange cloth, uh, and sannyas is a way of life, is how you think about how we renounce activities. There are devotees who are not in saffron clothes, but the kind of work they end up doing in their day-to-day life, in they go to work, but their mindset is to renounce. And that is what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. Bhagavad Gita is not talking about abandoning everything and going and taking saffron clothes for the sake of being a sannyasi. The saintly activity, sannyas, or your activity of renouncing, has to be thought about from a mind wherein whatever you end up doing, you essentially offering it to the pleasure of the lordships. So sannyas and tyaga is a mindset which has to be inculcated. More we inculcate that, we enjoy the journey, not hanker for the result of success or failure. And this is an example of what Tyaga is for all of you, my dear devotees. Uh, when Ram ji and Lakshman went to the forest, Bharat Maharaj, he was given the throne. He did not stay in Ayodhya. Ayodhya is a place. If you go to these places in UP now, Ayodhya is a big town, but Nandigram is actually a village like thing. The comforts are not there as much as in Ayodhya at that point in time. So Bharat Maharaj not only kept his shoes, the padukas of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Ramji, he did not stay in Ayodhya to start with. He went to a place called Nandigram. He abandoned, he renounced everything. He lived like a sannyasi. He did the Tyaga, and in spite of that, he ruled the kingdom. We can go to our office, make money, but at the same time, when we offered that, we are not really attached to that money. We are detached to the money. So having the mindset to lead a life where we are saintly in our mindset, in our approach, in our way of life, that is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. Bhagavad Gita is not teaching us to stand in our head and leg upwards. Bhagavad Gita is not talking about, Bhagavad Gita is talking about talking less, talking without prajalpa. Like a horse, we should control our mouth, and we should uh, get rid of all the doubts as Krishna is clearing the doubts of of his greatest devotee, Arjuna. So the mindset of Tyaga and Sannyasa, the difference between Tyaga and Sannyasa is something what we covered today. We're going to go more deep into this. This is the 18th chapter, the conclusion, the final, the grand finale before Bhagavad Gita, the masterpiece, the epic ends, where the dialogue between the greatest devotee and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just going very strong, and Lord is trying to convince his greatest devotee how to understand the difference between Tyaga and Sannyasa. And Lord has done all the groundwork before. As Srila Prabhupada is saying, this is the culmination or conclusion. All the concepts are well laid out. So in the 18th chapter, Lord is really taking the concepts he has already laid out in prior verses and trying to put a perspective in the final verses. And finally, we are going to lead towards the end game, which is nothing but surrender. So we can go on, but would like to hear from you, hear from how this verse inspires you, how this verse, how you have understood this verse, and how we can understand and help each other in our pursuit. So with that, I'd like to end here. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any
Hare
question,
Krishna.
comments, and we have Prabhuji, we have a new Prabhuji joining. Sadasuk Prabhu, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
And Ajit Naik Prabhu, thank you for joining. I hope this verse gives you enough power to meet the day-to-day life and has given you the perspective. You want any question, comments? We just want to welcome you. But any question, comment, we have Bhakti Ratnakar Prabhu, Niranjan Sahu Prabhu, and Prajapati Prabhu. Because of summer, we are having less attendance, but in a week or two, we had so many festivals in the past. We are not regular, which is why people may have not be joining. But any question, comments, any reflections? Anybody want to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam to all Vaishnavas, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the very well explained, especially the example of Bharat Maharaj, Bharat, how this is related, Prabhuji. Very classic example, and it's an eye opener for all of us, Prabhuji. What's the difference between the renunciation and the sacrifice? So only one point which, when you're speaking, Prabhuji, I this is what the realization came to me, which I want to share with our group. Last week we have studied about the charity, Prabhuji, right?
Yes.
So this actually is a implementation of that, Prabhuji. This verse is an implementation of the charity, that what is it we are announcing and what is it we are sacrificing, basically. So as you have rightly explained, we have to do nitya karma, being a grihastha, right, or being a non-saffron people. We should definitely do nitya karma, Prabhuji. But how we should do nitya karma is what I got from your explanation, Prabhuji. The nitya karma, we have to renounce basically the outcome of the nitya karma, Prabhuji. That means we should not work for, as you have rightly told, ROI. We should not work for the ROI, but we should work as though it is a prescribed duty for us. That should be our mindset, and that should be a mindset to, as you have told, it's a process, Prabhuji. It is not the outcome, right? The process should be that we should work as a prescribed duty, and irrespective of the outcome. In an absolute sense, both outcomes are favorable to us only, Prabhuji. In absolute, in the long run, if you see of any of your decision or any of your activity, any of our activities, right, the outcome is always favorable. Temporarily, it may show as not favorable, but in the long run, it will be favorable, Prabhuji, because this is Krishna's plan, not our plan, right? So the transition is, Prabhuji, from we have done the nitya karma is there, and we are doing the nitya karma, and we are renouncing the outcome, and say we gain something out of this. Then comes the Tyaga, Prabhuji, which is basically where we have, suppose we get Lakshmi, right, or we get recognition, or we get some mileage basically for what activity we are doing. That is, if part of that, if we can sacrifice it, that is the ultimate culmination of basically the whole prescribed duty which has been assigned to us, Prabhuji. So we are moving from a prescribed duty to a not dependency on the outcome through renunciation, and then to the sacrifice where we can part some of it, even parting some of it to the family who are nothing but Vaishnavas. In this life, they are our family, but in the big picture, they are Vaishnavas, Prabhuji, right? Even for them, like how we sacrifice for the kids, right? How we sacrifice similarly. So that also is a sacrifice. You don't have to sacrifice it to the temple or anything. If you can sacrifice your family also, so that's the logical transition from what we learned from last week to this week, Prabhuji. That's one point which I wanted to just what I realized. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you
Hare
so much,
Krishna.
Prabhu. So you touched on one thing, Prabhu, that when you end up doing any activity, any work, any prescribed duty with an intent to do your duty, whether it is nitya karma or kamya karma, the outcome is like a prasad of the Lord, is like a remnant of the Lord. If you have that mindset, it's not as if the devotees always get good news all the time. Devotees, bad things happen to devotees. But why are devotees very happy all the time? You see, they will be always jumping, chanting, singing. They will be always relishing prasadam, always glorifying the Lord. It is because they take the outcome, whether it is the good news or bad news, as the prasad of the Lord. Krishna consciousness is about eventually, and of course we'll get to 18 point, the subsequent verses where we are going to be told by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to surrender, and that is coming. But the intent is that when you surrender, you feel happy with good news, you feel happy with sad news, because the sad news is an offering, not happy in that material sense, but the people are not perturbed, the devotees are not perturbed by the bad news. So that is the outcome. So that's the reason why we should not, that's where when you look at all the concepts and try to put it aside, we realize that our life should not be outcome based, our life should be process or journey based. As long as we have these concepts in our mind, we can choose to expect uh, things, or choose to not expect things, but do our duty and not expect anything. So that is what is called karma yoga. Karma yoga is not about doing work; it's about how to do detached work, and that is what Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Swami speaks, is how to do detached work. And as long as we all end up doing detached work, there'll be no fighting, there'll be no, backbiting, and we all will live in a very wonderful place. If Bhagavad Gita is understood by everyone the right way, there'll be no fighting, there'll be no infighting, and there'll be no backbiting, and everybody will live coherently. And that's the message we should take away as we discuss more and more. So thank you, Prabhu. Any other question or comments?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. So I have one question. It may be very silly, but let's say if we're talking about detached work. So let's say being a student, if the student will not keep in mind a particular goal to achieve something in the exam, so putting their work, I mean, working towards something may not be possible, right? So how to tackle that situation, and how we will make sure like whatever work the student is doing will be detached work.
Yeah. So excellent question. So Prabhu, uh, what is happening nowadays? Ajit Prabhu, welcome to our Bhakti Vriksha Bhagavad Gita systematic study every Saturday evening. So what is happening nowadays? Students are focused more on preparing for the exam to pass or get good marks. So the intent is goal based. So what Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is saying is, you study everything. You study everything. Krishna is not saying miss this chapter, read only this 10th chapter because questions will come from this 10th chapter. Krishna is not saying that. So what is happening is, in our childhood, when I have left the education for a long back, we used to have this key books, जिसको बोलते हैं ना माने books in the sense, there'll be this MBD book or this book that it's nothing to do with MBD or whatever. There'll be a book which is basically there to be a simplified version of the book. So what people do, they take the easy route to get one. So that is what we are against. Krishna is saying, if you read all the chapters, all the prescribed chapters in your MTech, BTech, PhD, you will get the result. Don't be focused on the result. And coming back to the aspect of detached work, what is happening is, we talked about it, Prabhu, some time back in Ahmedabad. After the +2 exams are out, there is a police cordon which takes place around a lake in Ahmedabad. You know why it is done? It is because kids do suicide immediately after the 12th result come out. It comes in news. This is nothing new. It is because the kids are so focused on outcome based that when the result of whatever they are expecting doesn't match, they do suicide. The approach, what we're saying here, is you do the thing, don't wait for the result. Even if instead of 80% you got 70%, take it as a prasad of the Lord. So if the mindset changes like that, Krishna is not saying us, telling us to be kamchor. Krishna is saying do the work, but don't expect the result. Work with the intent, with detached work, so that these vices, these suicides, this rat race, this key book mindset without understanding the fundamentals will go away. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? Nice question. Please join regularly. Are you in our Bhakti Vriksha WhatsApp group, Prabhu? Or you get our
Uh,
individual messages?
I get an individual message through
Okay,
broadcast, I believe. Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Thank you so much. If you're interested, I'll send an invite
Sure.
to our Bhakti Vriksha group. Bhakti Vriksha group is called Saturday Discussion of Bhagavad Gita. Uh, so if you're interested, you can join, accept the invite. So thank you.
That would be
Great
great.
question.
Thank you,
Any
Prabhu.
any other comments or thoughts?
Oh,
Hare,
Prabhuji, thanks. Very good. I mean, understanding from your speech. Very good, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sadasuk Prabhu or Niranjan Prabhu, you want to ask a question or
No,
comment?
no, no. I'm totally confused because I just came in the middle. So I had to understand a little bit more next time, about this renunciation and I don't.
Yeah, no problem. So what Arjuna is asking, this is the beginning of 18th chapter, Prabhu. No worries. This is a very well-knit group. So this is the beginning of chapter 18. Chapter 18
Right.
is titled Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And here, the first verse, 18.1, Arjuna is asking, Arjuna vacha sanyasasya mahabaho tattam ichchami viditam tyagascha hrusikresha prathak kesi nishudana. He's asking, oh mighty armed one, he's referring to Krishna. Arjuna is asking, Arjuna vacha, I used to understand the purpose of renunciation and the renounced order of life. So Krishna is being asked the question, and Krishna is referred as K.C. Demon. K.C. Demon is like a horse demon, and demons are like doubts. So the doubt Arjuna had is to ask, is what is the difference between Tyaga, renunciation, and renounced order of life, Sanyasa? So the renunciation and the renounced order of life are different, and we discussed today the difference, and that is where there are some contextual thing. We have to have prescribed duties. You wake up, do brushing, you bathing, that is called nitya karma. Then there is something called kamya karma. We have desires. The problem is, in this age we all desire for TV, big houses, big cars, and when these desires explode, that is when we don't stay within the control of our greed, and that is why it destroys us. So the intent of all of this discussion today is to have a mindset in focusing on the journey of doing the work with an intent to get success or failure. Once you start becoming success oriented working, failure oriented working, that itself is a disgrace. Lord Krishna is saying, work, don't be a kamchor, but don't be outcome based. Do your duty, but don't expect the result of the duty. Once you become outcome based, then the mindset, and in that sense, Prabhu, we took the example of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was a king, but he did the king like a sannyasi, like a tyagi.
Yeah.
Does that help, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You haven't missed anything. This is a very well-knit group. We have devotees who ask so pertinent questions that we all get it. So thank you for inquiring. And after the class, it's an open forum. We'll discuss anything you may have.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavatam. All
Hare
praise
Krishna.
to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, Prabhuji, you nicely explained the difference between the Tyaga and the renunciation. So just wanted to not about this chapter. So Prabhuji, like regarding the chanting, right? So Prabhupada said that whatever we chant, we have to hear it right properly, like whatever we chant. So Prabhuji, so when I chant, I can hear what I chant. But it's good to have chant along with the devotees, right? So that's good. That is the recommended. So, but when I chant as a group, I'm not able to focus my chanting whatever I speak, right? I'm not able to hear, and mind is getting disturbed with other people's. They are also chanting. I mean, how do I then do this properly, Prabhuji?
Yeah, very nice question, Prabhu. So what is happening? Uh, and this is a question which will only get resolved with practice. So what is happening? Um, let's give that example. Arjuna, when everybody else were asked where the bird is, they were trying to find, hey, here is the bird's head, here is the bird. But Arjuna could see the eye and nothing else. So with practice, Prabhu, initially, when you chant with others, you are hearing others chanting into your, so you're not able to focus. The chanting is a call and action phenomena wherein you utter Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare, and you hear, and then you call out and hear. So what happens is when others are speaking, you are hearing, right? But so that means you're getting affected by others. But gradually, over a period of time, a lot of people, they try to close their ear. There are techniques. It's not as if this technique works for you and that technique works for me. Nothing like that. So it's something you have to have that practice, wherein over a period of time, when you chant alongside everybody, you can only hear you and you don't hear everything else. So this is where the focus comes into picture, right? So I'm not saying I'm a perfect chanter. I also get distracted, but the concept is, as you put more time into chanting, more practice into chanting, when others are there, you could only hear yourself and you will not hear others. It's a practice. It's not written in stone that you will get that in a year or two. But if you have the desire, Prabhu, and focus on your uttering of the Mahamantra, then gradually, then gradually we are going to overcome it. Does that help, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. And nowadays, actually, uh, what I did actually on my mobile lock, right? So whenever I do lock, basically, I was having some different kind of wallpaper. I put the Hare Krishna Mahamantra wallpaper on my mobile. Okay. So what happens whenever I unlock my mobile, right? So I read that Mahamantra, then I unlock the mobile. Okay. So with that process, what happens? I am able to, they recall the Mahamantra many times in a day now. And really is working out for me.
Awesome. Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that technique.
Prabhuji, one point on what Niranjan Prabhu has talked. So Prabhuji, this is as Prabhuji told, it's a practice. So the first step is, Prabhuji, Sankirtan. Sankirtan is, as Prabhuji told, it's an advanced stage if you want to congregationally chant, right? But you can do Kirtan congregational, Prabhuji, initially. And then you can do your individual chanting, you can do, Prabhu. You practically, you do your individual chanting first, get the taste of it, and when you feel the taste of it, and even if in the midst of something, then you can hear your own. So after you finish your rounds and all that, then you can go to book distribution or somewhere and do the congregational chanting. That way you will also try to get the advantages of the congregational chanting. And at home you can practice, get perfection in individual chanting by hearing and getting the taste and trying to enjoy the taste. I just wanted to give that's what struck me when you asked these questions. I wanted to share, Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So Ajit Prabhu, was this session helpful to you in any way?
Yes, Prabhuji, a lot actually, but this is very fast satsang session. I joined, but yeah, I got so many things to know, Prabhuji.
So please join. I'll send individual messages, and more and more you get the association and protection of the devotees, you will have a lot of strength. So please join regularly. Okay.
Sure, Prabhuji.
So let's
Thank
end
you.
here by offering prayers at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpataru vasya kripa sindhu vayevacha patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
vaishnavebhyo namo
Vaishnavebhyo
namo.
Namo Namo
Vaishnava Vrinda ki
Vrinda
jai,
ki
Bhagavad
jai.
Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Jagannath Prabhu ki jai.